And this system, we don't have access to. Oh, we received a notice from the 30s. Okay. Yep. We got a little bit too careless. Last time, Grey Hack pushed back hard. I went in mostly blind, got traced, got forced into guest access, and never really cleared those first 2 missions the way I wanted to. Since then, I've spent a few hours learning what I missed, and the big breakthrough was not just finding better tools, it was understanding how the exploits actually work. Once I started reading the source code and seeing the patterns behind the shop tools, Grey Hack stopped feeling like random trial and error. It started feeling like a foundation that I could build a workflow around. So today, we're going back to the missions that stopped me, solving what we can properly, and then taking the first step towards building our own reusable exploit tool. Okay, so these are the 2 missions that we have. We need to break into this IP, change this person's record to erase their tax evasion from their history. The other one is a school records request. We want to find this person, Delilah DeMutt's school records, and we want to change the notation on her mathematics score to change it to approved. Now, one of these we were able to determine we had the ability to gain root access, if not for the fact that the admin was on at the time. Let's go into File Explorer here. We downloaded our tools into our bin folder. So we have this tool, it's called set. This tool is called Haza4Z3, and the other one is called ASIC. For each of these IPs, so let's go back to this one here. If we nmap this, we have SMTP and HTTP to exploit. Exploiting SMTP only gets you so far. If it doesn't give you access to the shell, if it gives you credentials instead, that doesn't really do much because that still doesn't give you access directly to the PC. It gives you access to basically a mail client on the PC. So you don't really have access to the file server. Let's get our admin tool up and running. All right, so we've got our admin monitor just in case the guy's still online. Set, and we're going after this IP and this port. Okay, now this time the administrator is offline. So we have a little bit of time here to mess around. So let's go to File Explorer first. We're not going to find anything in downloads or desktop on the guest account. Okay, so we have a user named Balthazar. If we were to whois, we get this email address, and we can go ahead and send an email to this person. Okay, now we're going to get our login issues. We're going to go for Balthazar. Okay, so now we have this person's credentials, and he's still offline, so we're still golden. Okay, so we have our Balthazar user and password, but we don't really have a way to leverage it yet since there's no access to this server using these services. We can try to access the SQL server, our SQL 105 and 51. 100, 146, port 3307. Attack failed, no active root user found. So that one requires a root user to be logged in to be able to utilize it. So let's go back into our browser. Let's go back to our exploits. We're on SQL 105. Yeah. ASIC, that's what we're using now. Required guest user logged in the computer, root user logged in the computer. So this is why it didn't work. We have a guest user logged in, but the root user wasn't logged in, so that's why it failed. SMPH, non-root user, so this would work. It needs at least init.so of a 1.0 or greater, so it's got to be a 1.0 or greater. Any user logged in the computer, guest user logged in. This could work. We're going to get the source code. going to save it to our source. So this is remote SQL version 105, non-root user. Yeah, non-root user. So that would work for us as long as we qualify for the other things. So now I need to go to code editor. And let's take a look at our new card, this one. All these scripts seem to follow an almost identical path. This all starts with Metasploit. We're basically calling this data. So what this tells me is that instead of having this specific exploit, if we go and open up another one of these exploits, so that was this one. Let's go and look at set, which is a different one. This is for SMTP instead of SQL. We're now in set. And if you'll notice, absolutely nothing about this file changed, except for these two values right here. So instead of calling the overflow against the other memory address, we're calling these. So what that tells me is if we wanted to, if we could create a method to find these values for us, we could have just one exploit that could target any IP address and any sort from a single command. We would just have to feed it some sort of qualifiers like we're doing with the IP address and port. So instead, we would have the address, we'd have the port, then we'd have the mem address. If we're going to use it in the call of the function, we would have params 2. And then the exploit. I don't know if that's it doesn't look like it's a reserved word. If it was a reserved word, it would show up in a different color like that. So exploit, and that's going to be params 3. But I see nothing in here that says SQL 105 as a parameter, as a qualifier, as a condition. So the overflow will handle that as part of that function call, and we don't need to address it anywhere else. This is an unconditional exploit that we can use for any library for any version number. I think, if I'm reading these parameters correctly. So first thing we need to do is we need to clean this up some. So we need to acknowledge that we're now calling for a memory address and an exploit name. I'm just going to say name or value. We don't know if it's an exploit name or of a function or a string segment. It's not clear just from the characters that we've seen. So this is the new call. Anything else? So if rounds length is not equal to 2. Oh, right. So if it's not equal to 2, then we need it to look for 4 parameters now. Okay. So we're going to save this. Let's go ahead and go put it in bin. We're just going to call it exploit. It doesn't matter what we call it. Okay. So we're going to call it exploit v1 and we're going to save. Yep. Okay. So now we have an exploit v1 in our bin and I want to reopen the source code for this guy. All right. So that way we have this information here. So now we can go exploit v1. We're targeting 51.100.113.146 at port. It's a SQL 105, so 3307. And we are targeting those values. I don't think the quotations matter, but we can try it. Okay, nope, it does not like the quotations. Privilege obtained from user Bodizer. So we now have Bodizer's privileges. So all we did was we called this exploiter function and we fed it the memory address and the value that this exploit would have fed it. So all the exploits are just this. They're just these memory address and these values. So now we can use this program that we've created to target any vulnerability once we know what those vulnerabilities are. And the reason that's important is if we can script that and we can script the part where we collect those vulnerabilities, then we can arguably create a function that does everything for us without us ever having to do anything other than say, attack this IP and let me know when you have non-guest access. And we can set it to accomplish different tasks. We can say, go get me bank information, or go get me mail addresses, or go get me passwords, or get me root access or non-root access, non-guest access, basically. All right, so we are now in there as Bodizer. We can probably close our guest access. We may regret that later. All right, student viewer right there in his folder. We're looking for Delilah. All right, so class name, class grade. I don't know what an approved grade is. So I have that information. I don't have anything else. So with what we have in mind, we're going to raise her value to 6.0. No, 7.0. Record updated successfully. And now we're going to reply, say done. And see if that works. So customer satisfied. There's been an income in your account. Okay, so we can get out of here. No, we need to go into File Explorer one last time. I just want to, admin started a trace. When do you get there? Okay, everything else is done, so trace canceled. All right, it's 9:33 p.m. The admin just came online. Interesting. I'm glad we got this program. All right, so that's how you resolve most of the missions that you're going to see. If we go back and take a look, not exploits, jobs. So we had academic changes. I want you to change some grades. We gain access to the system using the exploit in their SQL library, which gave us access to presumably one of the teachers, Bodizer, that allowed us to go in and do something with that person's grade. We did that by gaining access to the system, first using a guest account, which was the easiest thing to get with the requirements that we were able to fulfill. And then giving us access to that guest account fulfilled one of the requirements for the other exploit that we used that gave us access to the SQL account or Bodizer and ultimately allowed us to change it to grade. So, the first part is cracking into the system, just gaining basic access, guest access. And then the other part is elevating your access so that you're able to make the changes that you need to make for the client or the customer. So we completed our first job. We now have $220. Now, what can we do with that $220? One of the things that I missed when I didn't complete the tutorial was I didn't know about the legitimate shops. So we have access to this hack shop. You won't find these in search. So you're going to have to find these individually. And there's multiple hack shops, and they all have different exploits and different jobs and opportunities. But the legitimate shops will allow you to, so this is how you get Nmap. So we had to create our own Nmap using the code from the manual. That's fine, but you could have come here and gotten it for free. Oh yeah. You can also get this SMTP user list, which we could have used this to also get the Bodizer account from that server that we were targeting for the academic changes. And that would have given us that Bodizer listing. And then we could have gone to the who is administrator and gotten their credentials. But again, that wouldn't get us very far because they didn't have like an SSH or FTP that we could use to log in to that server. But we're going to go ahead and buy this and we're going to download it. So if we wanted to, do I have terminal open now? No, I don't. So yeah, I want to use my mail. I want to go back to this address. Or you can just click on it. and I want to use that SMTP. I think you can use it from your system. So it returns 2 accounts, root and Bodizer. So that's another way you can find out who is on that system without drawing attention to yourself. Okay, so the shop gives you access to legitimate software. So we now know a little bit more about what we did wrong the first time around. It was just bad timing. We couldn't gain access to that system at the time because the administrator was online. So we still have this mission. The criminals database is on this system, so we want to access it through this SQL connection. So their library SQL is going to be version 103. If we can gain access to that. Okay, so now can I use scanlib? Oh, so either I need to be in the library folder or I need to tell it to scan in the library folder. Okay. So what this is doing is it's scanning our net.so library to determine if there are any vulnerabilities, any exploits that it can find, presumably using Metaxploit. So Metaxploit is going to be the database of the existing vulnerabilities or the known vulnerabilities that have been identified. Okay, so it found exploits in each of these zones. Okay, select memory index, we'll go to 1. Okay, scanning for vulnerabilities at memory zone, this zone. Decompiling source, searching unsecured values, unsafe check, loop and array title, buffer overflow, checking path, app to client. Okay, so these are the requirements. I believe this is the value, and this is the memory address. All right, so now we know how to get memory address and a value to target on other systems. We wouldn't be targeting these types of libraries. We would be targeting HTTP, SQL, SMTP, SSH, FTP, port structured exploits. Okay, so that's scanlib. Okay, so we're ready to go. Let's put you over here so we can watch our admin monitor and make sure it doesn't go crazy. Well, no, either way. So either this will give us root access, or admin monitor will go crazy, or we'll see that we've been directed to guest access. Yep. Attack was intercepted by administrator, forcing guest user access, but the admin is not actually online. Let's go to File Explorer. So we have Ruma. We have Ruma's credentials. We have Wengies. I think Wengies is the administrator. No. Oh, that's right. Estabaka. So Estabaka is the administrator. Oh, we don't have access to the system log. Yeah, we're definitely switching networks after this. Okay, server. Criminal D. See, now in HackHub, we have database applications that allow us to manipulate database files offline. Public. All right. All right, so we need another vulnerability. So we tried, let's see if we tried this one. This one was supposed to give us remote access to the root. So I think what we want is access to the shell to a non-root user. Okay, so we're not seeing anything like that. So my next guess would be to try an SSH. Access to shell, guest. Bank credentials, shell, guest. I guess password is okay. Actually, you know what? But I want to try something else. So we have different users. We have Ruma. We have Ruma's credentials already. We did that last time. But either I missed it or I just was burnt out by the time we got... Oh, that's why. Okay. So we have access to the SSH service, but it's not the right system. Yeah, we want to get to this criminals database, which is on this system. So there's still going to be more we have to do once we have access to the system. But we're going to exit and we are going to SSH Ruma at chess. Yeah. To that address, port 25, 22. Incorrect. Oh, actually, I do think I remember trying that. All right, let's try Wengus. Oh yeah, and it loses the email address. It shows only your email address. It doesn't show you the person you're trying to communicate with. Who is that? All right, so we're just gonna have to root it at Lapos to, this is a weird police website, web URL. Lapos. All right, login issues. Wengus. Let's see if we got the right name. Yep. Okay. Let's see if we can SSH with his credentials. That's annoying. So we can try an SSH exploit with 1.0. We're not getting a lot of decent opportunities here. Gain access to a shell guest account. Actually, you know what? Now that the administrator is offline, or the user, the root user was off, somebody was administrating, but didn't initiate a trace. But they were still able to intercept us and redirect us. If we can just gain access to the system, that would qualify. Oh, here's one non-root user. Publics exist in the file system. This might be exactly what we need. We still want to see the source code. All right. By downloads source. This is our SSH1.0 non-root user. Okay. And we can't open it because it's going to try and open it as a terminal app instead of source code. Zonigba. Re-int line. Okay, so this is the exploit that we're trying to use. So we don't have to compile these anymore. We can just get their values, target our system, and then provide the exploit. Oh. Okay. Public does not exist? We saw public. Oh, no. This is an SSH exploit. And the one we were trying to get was on, yeah, they're on two different systems. So because SSH goes to this system, yeah. Oh, this is annoying. All right, so we wasted a coupon on that. So we could get guest access, and that could qualify us to get the root access on the other. Actually, I don't think that would work because that would have guest access on the SSH IP, which is a different system. So at best, what we need is an HTTP vulnerability for 102. Get access to a shell, guest, one port forwarding configured from router to the target computer. So we know that that's, oh wait. It doesn't say at least one port forwarding. It says one port forwarding. And so we have 3 ports forwarding to this target. So snap, interesting name, is not what we want. We're starting from the top, right? Yeah, okay. Prints our content. So this would print the users. Inject a password. We really don't need those. What we need to do is get guest access onto that system so that we can use the exploit that we're using to get root access to the SQL server. That's what I believe we need to do. See, we don't have a guest user logged in the computer yet, so this won't help us. There we go, non-root user. 3 port forwarding configured from router to the target computer. We've got that. Okay. Let's try it. A bit script. No, we want the source code. Okay, that is our HTTP, right? Yeah, HTTP 103, version 1.03. Non-root user and 3 port forwarding. My names are getting ridiculous. Okay, save it. Code editor, open, download, source. Is there another way to view these? I don't like that. So many things are getting cut off now. A-bit script. So this is the new code. And the port is 80. Okay, so this should give us non-root user access. If that works, then we just need to find the criminal database and make changes. I'm assuming there's going to be something like that, similar to Student Viewer. But that was using the SQL exploit. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be the same method or the same steps. But this should exploit failed, vulnerability not found. It is 102, but it said exploit not found. Okay, but I need to change that name so it doesn't confuse me later. Okay, yeah, it's moved. All right, so we want to mv a bit to a bit script 2. All right. Now, why did it say vulnerability not found? Exploit failed. Vulnerability not found. Program ended. So let's nmap again. It's 44.237.234.146. What? 145. Okay, they're still there. RSQL 103. I don't know why I can't do that. Let's see, we're using 3306. And he's online now. We have the guest access, and now we can use, which one was it? File Explorer. Man, it's easier on the terminal. CD, downloads, source. SQL 105, HTTP 102, SSH 100. I think it's the SSH one that we were trying to do. So, editor, open, downloads, source. Here's the Sonia. Okay. So we would do that from here. V1. Oh, I'm already down to 18 seconds. That sucks. So it all comes down to timing. So what I can do is I can create code that will allow me to try and launch those exploits faster, so that even with the trace timer going, I don't have to spend so much time just kind of rooting around and figuring out what needs to go where. Yeah, that's my fault for trying to be more flexible by having the exploit application instead of calling each and every one of those exploits as its own individual program. But if I had bothered to, compile any one of these, I could have just run those immediately and executed the exploit, that way, which makes sense in a mission critical setting like that. I don't know if we get back on there. Yep, he's still there. All right, let's just do it. Code editor, open, downloads, source. We want this guy. And we're just going to deploy it as quick. All right. So we want to quick 44.234.237.145. This is against the SSH port not found. Why was the port not found? 237.234. Public does not exist, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. Okay. And this system, we don't have access to. Oh, we received notice from the 30s. Okay. Yep. We got a little bit too careless. See, public is available on this system, but this is not the same system as that SSH server. So that SSH access is not going to help us. It's the SQL access, and that's it. Okay. And we're caught. So we need to switch accounts. So we're going to go after said 18AU next. And now let's create a new. So this is the new foundation for our exploiter code. We're going to save this in source as exploit version 2 source code. Okay. So we have our source code, and this will be the foundation for what we try next. So what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to go into our source, go into each of these, and collect these values. So basically go into source, we're going to get these values out. And this might have to wait for the next video. We have the memory zone and the value of this exploit. We'll have to comment out. How do comments work in this? Comment. Okay, so that works. All right, so this will be the comment for the name of this exploit, which, okay, it's shown up here. So this is for the X, that's 0 NY XBA, which is a remote SSH version 1.0.0 non-root user exploit. All right. And then we'll go through and we'll collect the rest of those values so that we have basically a running list of these values that we can then target. So instead of calling, I'm going to go ahead and close that. I didn't change anything. All right. So basically, once we have this list defined by SSH, defined by version, this is our local list. What we should be able to do, okay, for our purpose, we're going to do this. We're going to have just a small list of these exploits just so that we can expand on exploits. So right now, our exploit V1 requires us to enter an IP and a port, as well as a memory zone and a value. So we can attack one thing at a time based on a known memory zone and value. But once we have a list of multiple exploits that are targeting different versions of different libraries, instead of calling for the IP and the port and the zone and the value, we call for the service and the version. So then the program just goes through our list, it finds the service and the version and just attempts that exploit automatically. And if that doesn't return the shell object, then it tries the next one in the list. And it keeps going until the shell object is returned or the user ends the program, meaning, oh, admin's online, I need to stop this. So we don't need to memorize these. We just need to collect these and add these to our database. Or ideally, we target the Metaxploit library and we use that as our database once I figure out how to do that. But that's for next video. We'll work on that code. We'll see if we can tighten it up and then just basically do a speed run against this police server and see if we can get the task done. Okay, so this session did not just move the missions forward. It changed how I understand the game. The real breakthrough was realizing that Greyhack's exploits are not magic buttons. They're structured tools with requirements, targets, memory zones, and payload values. Once I started reading them that way, the game stopped feeling like random trial and error. It started feeling like a workflow I could actually build around. We resolved one of the missions that stopped me last time. And the second one showed us exactly why speed, timing, and better tooling matter. So the next step is clear to me. Keep building this exploit framework. Make it smarter, and start turning Greyhack into something I can approach with much more confidence. My name's Archeagus. Until next time, be safe.